No, you don't need the.
I'm doing this my way.
He a legend, he a legend, he a legend. He a legend, he a legend, he a legend.
Talking on it though, then
He
you
a
can't put it up
legend.
later.
Welcome to the league, to the league, to the league, to the league, to the league of items. Welcome to the league, to the league, to the league, to the league, to the league of items.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Michael with League of Items, and Gronk just got traded to the Buccaneers. So I'm very enthusiastic. But what we really need to be focusing on is liberating O.J. Howard from the hellhole of Tampa Bay. I don't care if you have Tom Brady. You don't need 3 tight ends. Just get rid of him. Liberate O.J. Howard. Make sure you tweet that out and comment that. So, for the almost perfect lineup. Basically today, I think it's pretty straightforward. The most common lineup construction is going to be 4 players from the second match and 3 players from the Korean match. I prefer T1 and E-Star. I think a lot of people on DraftKings are going to use World Elite just because they know that they have high upside and they think that they have a chance to win, but they got destroyed by E-Star earlier this week, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago, so it's not looking good for World Elite. So basically, let's just get right into it. We're going back to Old Faithful, the poke yourself in the eye lineup. We've got Wink and we've got Way. Wink scored 150 points, I think, in their last matchup. Or no, Crying scored 150 points in their last matchup. Wink only scored 92, but I think that will change because these games are going to be a little bit longer and fights around Dragon and Baron. Crying will probably be more owned than Wink because of his last performance against World Elite, so we're just going to play towards the falling back to averages and having the 80 carry score more points than the mid laner. Pretty non-controversial. Jungle. In terms of jungle, if E-Star wins, E-Star will have the highest scoring jungler on the slate. T1 versus Dragon X probably not going to go out of control. So, you just need to get as many pieces of E-Star as possible. The most interesting decision on this slate, if you're building lineups with E-Star and T1, is going to be, do you take Cryin or do you take Faker? And if you need, and you have to consider if you want both of them in your lineup, which is also another potential roster construction that you could look at. If you did like Cryin plus Faker and Teddy and just leave out Wink for some reason, it's possible. So Faker, I think Faker, if Dragon X tries taking away Azir by picking it, Faker is going to play Akali, and Faker is going to dominate. I'd watch out for that specifically. And then if T1 wins, which I think is most likely to happen, Teddy is going to be the primary carry for T1 unless Faker's on Akali. So you definitely want Teddy in your lineups. If Dragon X wins, it's just a basic stack. You want to get all of the carries and jungler and everything. Piosik has a very high upside. T1, you have to be careful about the jungle situation. Not sure who's starting. You have to check out around lock for that as well. Last up, in the support, we have Xiaoxi. 2-game slate, not very interesting. You just kind of have to deal with it, but you're in luck. We've got the double almost perfect lineup special with Europe. I know nothing about the European Masters, so what are we going to do? We're going to depend on Vegas to give us the good info. So what do we have? Movie Star Riders versus Schalke, 286. Mouse Sports, minus 1430. Fnatic, minus 760. So, what does this mean for us? Well, if you paid attention to my channel, you would have seen my video on twitch.tv/The League of Items with Dark Sheep. We determined that the amount of entries a team is on, the amount of lineups that a team is on, is a percentage of the entries that's pretty highly correlated with the money line from Vegas. So the 2 most highly owned teams are probably going to be Mouse Sports and Fnatic Rising. So let's see. Yep, they're the 2 biggest favorites. So it's going to be easy to get different on this slate if you really want to. Just fade one of those teams or fade both of those teams. But we don't have many good reasons to pick players other than that. So let's just go game by game and see if we recognize any of these players. Okay, so Schalke has Gilius and Lurox. They have Inox. I'm not sure who is starting for them, but that's actually a pretty good sign. So Schalke is a team from Germany. They're connected with the football club, and they have a lot of support from like that organizational structure. So I'm not sure if they are also using Dylan Falco as their coach, but that does make me hopeful that that Schalke is going to be able to win here. Gilius is a pretty good jungler. Lorox is a pretty good jungler. They both played okay in the LEC this year. They had some game winning or slate winning performances. I've had Schalke win me money several times, so I do have good feelings with Schalke. So I would prefer that side. Where's his other Movie Star Writers? Where is Movie Star Writers from? That's what I have to check. He a legend. He a legend. Just in case you were wondering. All right. So let's see. What do we got? Dang it. All right, so this is pretty good. This is where we're going to find out where the teams are coming from and everything. So the reason why these are the two most popular teams is because they're coming from the best league, I believe. The Prime League is probably number 1. This team from Spain. Okay, so Movie Star is actually on a legitimate region as well. That is good. That is good for their chances to win. So maybe Movie Star shouldn't be this big of an underdog. This game is probably going to be relatively close. Maybe that's why the line is like this. Personally, I'm going to favor the Schalke side because of the players that I recognize from the LEC. But do as you see fit. SNG versus Kick. Let's see. SNG. Kick is from Poland. Okay. Qualified for main event. SNG, I'm guessing this is Team Singularity. Krogson. Kick and Singularity. Yep, okay. So we've got a team from Poland and a team from the Nordic region. All right, so next up we have Wiz and Mouse Esports. So let's see. I'm guessing that's the Energy Pot Wizards. Yep, okay. Energy Pot Wizards and Mouse. So we have no player information for either of these teams. Great job. All right. According to BetDSI, Mouse Esports is minus 1,400, so that's like a 90% favorite to win. This team is from Slovenia. I don't recognize any of those players. Mouse Sports. I recognize Promise Q. I think I recognize Jessica as well. So maybe there is reason for them to actually be favored, but it's tough to say. I haven't watched them play. We're really just going off the Vegas odds for that one. Isuba. And Fnatic. Isuba. Robocop, Jackie, Danny, Rufus, Random. I don't think I recognize any of those names either. Fnatic Rising. I'm assuming this is going to be a good team. Don't recognize any of those players. I might recognize Pride. I feel like I've heard of that guy before. But again, nothing actionable, so I'm really not sure. These guys played in the last tournament for the play-ins, I guess. And it looks like they have a carry jungler. So he had the highest points on his team. 14 kills, 30 assists. Might be worth it to look for an upset on that one, just because we have Fnatic, which is a known quantity. And that's a pretty big underdog. So you don't have to win that many times to make that a valuable bet. Next up, we have Vodafone Giants, which is like a big telecommunications company in Spain, so I'm assuming they have a pretty good team. And then LDLC, Vodafone Giants, pretty Attila. So Attila is actually a pretty popular player. That's a pretty big advantage for them. Although it's just going off name recognition, they're not necessarily better, but that does make me trust them a little bit more. And then this team is from France, Yellow Star. So this is an interesting matchup. So Yellow Star was the support for Fnatic for years, and then he became a coach. And then he went from coach to player again. So I think he's the coach and the starting support for this team. So that means they're going to have a good macro game. They're going to have a good understanding of the game. The only problem is that he may not be the most mechanically skilled player anymore. And in a matchup where it's like a strong AD carry like Attila versus Yellow Star, that could be potentially a problem. So that's a plus 177. That's another one that I would look at for an upset. And getting an upset means that you can make your roster with it's a lot easier to make your team. And then we have Woolite. I recognize Woolite. So maybe that's the way to go in that last game, is to go with Woolite. He's a pretty good player. Woolite against Diffuse Kids. So a team from Poland and a team from the Netherlands. I think Poland has been thought of as like one of the better emerging regions in Europe, but I don't remember for certain. So if we're building a team based off of name recognition and stuff, if we look at name recognition, we're going to have popular players. So for SO4, I do like their team, but I think that you're going to need to know exactly who is starting before you can start putting together your roster. But SO4 is definitely a place that I would look to, because Gilius and Inox specifically, if this guy's playing, you want him in your roster. They played really well at the end of the split, so I'm not sure if he's actually even able to play in this event. Let me take a closer look. Sleeping, Laurel, Venter leaves, Gilius joins main roster. Neon joins. Mert is the head coach. So it looks like he should be the one starting. I don't know what the rules are, if you can play on both or not. So assuming that he's playing, I think Inox has a very high upside. He had some great games at the end of the season. They won 4 games in a row. He was coached by Dylan Falco. I've got a lot of respect for that coach. I think he's very good. So I think I do want to start off my lineup with Inox, and then I'm assuming we can get Gilius in there as well. You may want to do a full stack. Just obviously the stacks are going to give you the highest upside, but for this I'm trying to give you a little bit of a better understanding about some of these players just based off of what I know of the ones that I know. So I don't know any of those guys. Promise Q and Mouse. So Promise Q is projected to win. That's going to be a pretty popular way to get in your second team. Not necessarily the best way to go about doing that though. And then we have Woolite. So I'd probably want to get one of these teams in. So for EU Masters, basically, it's tough to put together the almost perfect lineup. I don't know a lot of these guys. My next version of this will be better after I watch the game 1 or the first day of games tomorrow. So make sure you check back in the day afterwards. But I don't want to give out too much bad information. Watch out for the teams that have players that we recognize, but otherwise definitely limit your exposure on day 1, unless you're using the Vegas lines as your guiding star, Yellow Star. Maybe we should just put Yellow Star in here. No, can't do that. So I think Schalke's probably a team I'm looking towards, because they are a little bit more of a known commodity. I would expect them to win their matchup tomorrow. But basically, looking back at the Korea and the LPL matchups, I like T1 a lot. I like E-Star a lot. I think World Elite's going over-owned. Be careful with World Elite. Because if you roster too many players from World Elite and they shit the bed, then you're not going to have the almost perfect lineup.
No, you don't need the.
I'm doing this my way.
He a legend, he a legend, he a legend. He a legend, he a legend, he a legend.
Fucking on it though. Then
He a
you can't fuck it
legend.
up later.
Welcome to the league, to the league, to the league, to the league, to the league of lineup. Welcome to the league, to the league, to the league, to the league, to the league of lineup.
Pike on money, pike on money, pike on money. We making pike on money. Payday, about to throw a rack on China. Need some DFS advice, where can I find some? League of Items got the sheet with all the lineups and all the stacks that you need to get to diamond. League of Items!
Getting gold, that's the goal.